Hello and welcome. This is your GM in the Great Barrier welcoming you to the center of your entertainment galaxy. We are happy to welcome you back to Star Trek Adventures Aegis, Episode 2, which for those watching on the YouTube archive might notice that we've had considerable more sessions. I'll remind you for now that present notation episodes are the whole sort of adventure, but there may be multiple parts to that naturally. Um, I may well fix this in the future, but until then, I hope you can bear the clunk and will possibly work this out. This may well be an artifact that gets edited out later. At any rate, I am happy to welcome you with our set of players today. Uh, as such, we are just going to essentially jump into things with our follow-up with the Starship Aegis. So let's set the stage just a very little bit. We are following you at least a couple weeks after the adventure at Alpha Centauri had resolved. The Aegis is currently in the field, moving along at warp, and um, yeah, you've been a few places, some of which we will see in hindsight here, or in flashback perhaps. But until then, we are currently following the ship as it approaches its next destination. I would like to start by asking for those that are already aboard the Aegis, do you wish to have a scene, uh, either among your crew or with the other NPCs? I am not hearing any volunteers, so it sounds like we are going to just cut straight to the bridge. So let's go ahead and move on there. And so it has been a reasonably long jaunt. I'd say you've probably been traveling out in this direction for the past 5 days aboard the Aegis. This under the command of Lieutenant Commander Kiran Patel. Um, Thankfully, this has been a very quiet set of days as you've proceeded along at warp. Um,
I'm fidgeting in the command seat the entire time.
no,
Like if the camera looks over at me or anybody looks over at the captain's seat, Kieran is like never still.
no. Yeah, you certainly felt more comfortable in the science officer's seat.
I think every so often he casts a glance over towards his science console.
Yeah, which has been intermittently manned, sometimes by replacement science officers. Occasionally, Crichton will take a crack over there. He is not completely unfamiliar with the station. But yes, it's been a very strange hat to wear these past couple weeks in command, and this probably takes you back a little bit to the unpleasant moment where you had to assume, or where you were given this particular duty. So let us set the scene back just a few weeks, or rather, a little under a week ago at this stage. Patel, you would be the only one strictly required for this, but if others who were in the Aegis crew by that point, including um, by then the newly recommissioned Commander Aleska Romanov and uh, Dr. Lambeth, if you would also like to be present for this particular meeting, then I will give you the option.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Ben, would you like to be present as well?
Yeah. Might as well.
All right. So, allow me to set the scene for us here and make sure that everything is properly set up. So, this cuts back to a time briefly after the Aegis had returned to dry dock from Alpha Centauri. It had been a few days journeying back from that after the Aegis came back to rendezvous with you. They were allowed by the new Vulcan fleet that had taken up a protective cordon around the world um, to preserve their independence, or rather issue a guarantee to it. They allowed you to pass uh, without any hostility, certainly in stark contrast to the Tellarites, and all of you are have reason to hope, I should say, that they would be a better partner for the Alpha Centauri. Um, but suffice to say that by the time you had gotten back to Earth and arrived on orders at Starfleet Command, that things were a little bit more tense there over the situation. Um, so the arriving at Starfleet headquarters, Patel, Lambeth, and Romanov, all of you would have known that Captain Barton had already been called in some time before. As a matter of fact, almost immediately once the Aegis had docked, he had been recalled to Starfleet Command. Um,
Hmm.
for the rest of you, there was a bit of a lull as you oversaw essentially preparation for the ship's department's possibility of going back out as soon as possible, but there were no standing orders at that point, so you were just left to a state of readiness while Spartan sorted things out. Um,
If I was recommissioned at that point, I would be going to simulations and training for the Horizon class. If I'm not familiar with it already, i.e., just immerse myself in the ship,
oh,
Scotty style.
you mean the
That's all.
Daedalus class?
The Daedalus class, yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
So Scotty style, I get all the books and start reading them.
yep. So, as you work on that, you find
Listening
that
to rock and roll.
yeah, you would have found in those weeks that it was fairly easy to do so, as Captain Barton, pretty much as soon as you returned to the Aegis, had taken you aside and, after a brief conversation, seemed to have decided that between the interspecies medical exchange records and the work you'd done on the surface, considering your service record, he was willing to give you a commission. He'd made some complaints that their last chief engineer went into a state of hibernation, so they were a little short-handed. So with that, you got the job, and you definitely had a chance to update yourself a little bit on the inner workings of a Daedalus class, or rather, updating from when you last oversaw the vessel. Um, but at any rate, as all of you have been updating your craft, as it were, or preparing for whatever the next steps might be in this process, and you were all eventually called down to Starfleet Command as some of the senior most officers aboard the Starship Aegis. You were called into an office in Starfleet Command, uh, presently left empty. I'd say that it's a slightly warmer than usual day around San Francisco Bay as you exit that building, but or rather, when you enter the building, The breeze does abate some of that heat coming off the bay. However, inside, while the temperature is physically comfortable, there's definitely a tenser feel to the interior. And that is where, as you are waiting in a command office, a door opens, and the figure that comes through betrays a mere moment of frustration before regaining his composure, and he steps through the door. One Admiral Forrest. Ah, Commander Patel, Commander Romanov, he says, looking to a pad to his side. Dr. Lambeth, thank you for joining me.
Admiral.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Oh, I wish I could say the same over the circumstances. Let me assure you, though, first, he says as he moves towards his office desk. After extensive deliberation and conversation amongst the Admiralty, all of you will be allowed to remain at your posts. The final determinations of the of command were essentially that responsibility for the situation, such that we deemed it could be assigned, fell on the senior-most officer. So Captain Barton won't be rejoining you for the foreseeable future. He strides over to his desk and takes a seat. There are others in front of him, which he will gesture to you, allowing you to take seats.
I awkwardly take a seat.
Yeah, take a seat.
I'm afraid Parliament's in a bit of an uproar over this Alpha Centauri business, and Prime Minister Samuels is looking for someone who can take the blame. Starfleet's going to bear the brunt of it after this, and there have been some very difficult conversations with the Joint Chiefs. Captain Barton has been formally relieved of command, and unfortunately, we don't have an experienced Starfleet officer to replace him. As he pauses for a moment, he looks both to you, Romanov, and to you, Commander Patel.
She has a deer in the headlight look on her face, wow, she wasn't expecting that, but she hasn't been back in the fleet for a while, so she didn't know there was personnel shortages. So
Patel's complexion just goes very pale. He doesn't have any specific reason. He's just not used to this sort of high stakes thing that's happening.
No.
Okay, so what's your proposal then, Admiral? What are you thinking?
Well, due to the extenuating circumstances around your commission, Commander, the command has decided that it is, while they will uphold Captain Barton's recommissioning, there is extreme reservation about permitting you in the strict structure of command, as it were. So we do not plan to advance you in that rank, and
I'm okay with that, really. I'm just fine. She looks elated.
rest assured, Commander Patel, we are not looking to put you in the big chair, at least permanently. Although, as the senior-most officer, you are going to be in charge for the brief voyage.
Big sigh, but then he cocks up an eyebrow and says, "Voyage?"
The Aegis has new orders already, and coincidentally it will allow you to rendezvous with your new commanding officer. There were some discussions and some fierce clashes between Starfleet and Mako, and in the end, Mako won out as far as Samuels is concerned. You're going to rendezvous with one of their vessels in order to pick up your new commanding officer. From there, you are to proceed to HD 85512. There's a follow-up mission that we need to conduct, a missing starship that we need you to investigate. But until you pick up your commanding officer, then they will have additional orders relayed to you.
Do I know anything about HD 85512?
Give me a reason and science. Yes, reason and science task. I'm going to call this difficulty 2 probably, and if you have any sort of astrophysics focus, then that can come into play.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'll just take it as it is. So difficulty 2, no focus.
Okay.
No clue.
It is not a... You recognize immediately the terminology as likely obviously some sort of star system or stellar object. It is not one that is terribly familiar offhand, possibly suggesting that it is maybe not one of the inhabited ones, as it were. So otherwise, yeah, it is something of a mystery, I suppose.
What's the distance to HDH 5512?
Approximately 37 light years.
Is the ship civilian, Starfleet, friendly?
It's one of ours, a surveyor class vessel, or rather one of the old Neptunes.
And
Yes.
the name?
The starship Crozier. It's been missing for... it's failed to report back in the past 2 weeks, which puts it almost a week overdue. We had given some allowance, and at present we have no other ships that are particularly fast or suited for the situations. The next closest would be the ship you're to rendezvous with. However, well, they aren't exactly equipped for the sort of scientific missions that would be required in this case. And I think that as we are having that discussion, it would be appropriate to cut forward very slightly back to the bridge. As you recall this, Commander Patel, as these memories are playing out for you, I would imagine that your train of thought is interrupted by Ensign Connolly informing you that you are beginning to drop out of warp, and the vessel is indeed there to rendezvous.
All right. I stand up from the captain's chair awkwardly and do the Picard maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
Tug my uniform down a little bit.
Yep. And with that, you do... Mr. Crichton does pull up the visual for you, which we will have a slight modification to our bridge set now. There displayed before you seems to be, well, it looks very similar in some sense to the old NX space frame that that is so famous, but this one is a vessel perhaps of slightly less note. Creighton says, Sir, the Starship Franklin is hailing us.
Put it on screen, Mr. Gryden.
All right. Standing by, sir. And on the screen before you, as it loads up here, see the face of what you could describe as definitely a seasoned Mako, and one, or perhaps an officer at least, better known in the training ranks and of some repute from the recent conflict with the Zindi. Commander Patel, this is Colonel Balthazar Edison, requesting to come alongside.
Of course, Colonel Edison. Please stand by to communicate with our helmsman for flight pattern information.
Acknowledged. We'll have you, rest assured, we'll have your new captain along shortly. And with that,
Outstanding.
the channel will cut out, and the Mako will disappear from your screen. Which does take us to elsewhere, very specifically the bridge of the USS Franklin, or rather Starship Franklin. It's not the USS Franklin yet. The GM must remember these things. Roll20's being a tad slow today. On the
It's
other...
just throwing a tantrum.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's throwing a tantrum. It usually does.
Indeed. So, on the other end of that, and introducing our newest player, Luckless Panda, we go to the bridge of the Starship Franklin, where the channel is just closed. I still can't believe you took an assignment on one of those death traps.
This wasn't much better when we got it, sir. Just needs some polishing. And a few more guns. Or any guns.
Well, as we understand, they have upgraded the vessel with standard phase cannons now. They're also running with the same torpedo loadout. And unlike us, they haven't been quite so lucky in acquiring nuclear weapons. Which reminds me, Colonel Sharp, you're not expecting to take anything non-standard with you.
Don't quite know what you mean, sir. She kind of gives a smile. Just a very faint smile.
Go ahead and give us a description of Colonel Lillian Sharp.
Colonel Lillian Sharp is a beautiful woman, around 5'7", late 20s, with a tapered cut hair that has bangs outward toward the front. That is a little stylish, but still within the range of acceptable for protocol. Her uniform is definitely of the make for a Mako, with the sort of semi digital camo. It is perfectly immaculate. She's definitely fit, and there is just a bit of a fierce twinkle in her eye of somebody who's definitely well capable of up to no good when she needs to, and has definitely a sort of stature of a capable and powerful individual. Or at least very confident.
Yep.
But not arrogant. Maybe a little arrogant.
Yeah. As much arrogance as the team of Makos that you've been working with this past year or so would have qualified. Yeah, you look around your crew, officers that you've come to know and respect, Jessica Wolf, Anderson Lee, Laura Yanovich, and of course your own commanding officer, Colonel Edison. Mr. Lee, complete docking procedures, we'd better proceed down to the airlock.
Do they know how to dock, sir? Properly?
Oh, now they are Starfleet. Just because they're a bunch of polite scientists doesn't mean that they can't fly the stars. They've been doing that before us.
And yet they still wished for their ship to be so bare. All right.
And a short time later, you make your way down and approach the airlock. Who, if anyone, would be coming to greet the new commanding officer?
Definitely me.
Romanoff
Yeah,
should be there.
I feel like I've kind of got to. So, yeah.
Yep. Conley, for our purposes, will stay down. Lieutenant Shara will join you down there as well. Actually, I suppose she may take the con for the time being. So Romanov will also be there. Essentially, we get a chance to introduce all the players to each other, and as the airlock secures, there's a crewman with a digital bosun whistle that will blow, and yeah, within a few moments after that, the airlock pressurizes, and the airlock doors open. As you arrive there, you see this woman step through the door. For for our new players' reference, if you would like to go back over anything with your own descriptions, then you are welcome to do so for our remaining players.
Certainly, I like to hear it. I've been trying to catch up, but I would like to match names with voices.
I guess it makes sense if I start as sort of the de facto person in command. So Patel, once the airlock doors open, he steps forward. He's a man of average height, probably about late 30s, maybe 40 years old. He's of South Asian descent, so like Indian sort of looking. He has long hair tied back in a ponytail, with a few loose strands here and there, and sort of a goatee mustache. He looks maybe a little uncomfortable still to be wearing a uniform, but he's got the blue piping of a science officer and the rank of a lieutenant commander. And just in general, sort of looking not sheepish, but just sort of out of place doing like protocol stuff like this.
Cool. She will approach, and I've always been confused. GM, has there ever been a actual official salute when it comes to the Federation? Is it just the...
Well, we are still pre-Federation, so I'd say that Mako is probably more likely to adopt more traditional saluting patterns. Whether
Yep, she just
Starfleet
gives
probably does that, yeah.
Yep, she gives a 3-finger salute then.
Patel looks back at Dr. Lambeth and at Commander Romanov briefly, and returns the salute as awkwardly and politely as he possibly can.
Okay, Romanoff, late 20s, redhead, sort of a little wild in the hair.
You're
And
coming through a little robotic there. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt.
sorry, what was that?
Your audio quality is coming through just a little robotic for some reason.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. So I have art. It's in the Roll20, so you can see what she looks like. Maybe the hair is a little wild, but it's not out of regulation. And let me post something for you. And she extends her hand. Ma'am.
She'll look at the hand, and there's a really awkward moment where she just reaches out and shakes it.
Okay. And here, I'll picture. I just had to pull it off of my thing. And she's like, well, I'm the chief engineer now. And great to meet you. I grew up on Alpha Centauri. My family we worked for boomer ships, wrenching for them.
This slight nod. Do you have a rank pip on your?
Yeah, it's commander.
All right. Yeah, she'll say commander, lieutenant commander.
Right, and I guess right, hi, Dr. Lambeth or Danny. Yeah, I'll be the one patching you up if you get any holes in you. How do you do? He's just like shortish, like military, like standard, like brown hair cut to like a military standard, but then just kind of left to get a bit scruffy and get a tiny little bit of stubble, and kind of slouched slightly, like not a real, not a fully like professional bearing to him.
Doctor, pleasant to meet you all. I am Colonel Lillian Sharp. I will be commanding your ship from this day forward. I hope we can all work together.
Looking forward to it, Colonel.
Definitely.
She'll look to Patel. You are the current acting captain?
I am, sir.
She'll hand over a slate, and then formally, under the orders of Starfleet Command and Mako Command, I am instructed that I will take command of the ship. And
Right,
you are relieved.
I take the datapad and go over to a law console and computer. This is Lieutenant Commander Kiran Patel, recording transfer of command at. I look at my watch chrono, give the time and the date, and there you go. Welcome aboard.
1 second.
And so with that, yes, Colonel Sharp is
one
aboard.
thing.
Yes.
One thing though, GM.
Yes.
Could I take something?
What did you want to take?
You know what I want. Could I sneak one?
Oh dear. I need to think here.
The tension.
Sorry, I got a quick emergency call ahead.
You are fair, and as a parting gesture, why not?
Cool.
So there will be some officers that wheel up cases with your effects. One slightly larger one than, or one slightly larger than what you were expecting, or rather, that's one additional case there for you. To which
she'll just eye the larger case and just smile, quietly thanking a certain friend of hers in the ship, and look back. Commander Romanov, could you ensure that case in particular goes into the armory?
Absolutely.
She'll grab the rest of her bags because she doesn't need a freaking. She's a Mako, so just grab her bags and say, "Lieutenant Commander, if you can direct me to my quarters, very briefly."
Of course.
And so the two of you will make your way down. If you wish to converse at all on the way, then you are welcome to have a scene and of sorts. Otherwise, if there are other things you wish to say that your characters would do, or other scenes that anyone would like at this point, then just let me know here.
I would like a scene with the lieutenant commander.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask. Did you say lieutenant commander or commander? I didn't hear it. So.
Lieutenant commander. The commander's busy. Should be busy dragging a large cart or a large case to armory. But
The totally not a bomb.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Very good.
I'm not sure what it is. It could be anything. I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to secure it.
Yeah, I'm good with the scene.
All right. So the two of you are proceeding your way. I would imagine that since the airlock is on one of the, it's I think on one of the middle decks of the Aegis, very specifically. That would be deck 6. Captain's quarters, along with the rest of the officers' quarters, would be on deck 2. So you would find your way at a certain point to one of the turbo lifts.
Grab the handle of the turbo lift and key in deck 2.
So, Lieutenant Commander, perhaps you can fill me in on the current mood of the ship.
Well, Colonel, Captain, should we refer to you as Colonel or Captain, actually, first?
You're not in trouble, and nor are we near Admiralty, so you can call me Captain. She gives a small smile. Or sir.
Very well. Very well, Captain, sir. I would say the ship is not nervous, but not quite at ease either. Our previous mission was quite stressful, and the circumstances of our previous captain's relief from command were strange for all of us, I think. Unexpected, I would say.
Unexpected one way. She kind of looks over to you.
Well, the mission to Alpha Centauri was our first mission as a complete crew on the Aegis. And it's fairly unusual, as far as I know, from Starfleet traditions to replace a captain after the first mission.
Well, when one makes a political mess, sometimes that happens.
Patel gulps very. I don't know that it's noticeably, but the camera definitely picks up on that, since he was the one who actually did the decision there.
But your former captain is going to be fine. He'll shake it off.
I believe so too. Captain Barton seemed like a very resourceful person.
If anything, given the stresses out there in the stars, I'm sure that he'll Starfleet Command or other branches will have use for him.
Yep, most certainly. But enough about our previous commander. I'm interested to see what not what brings you here. That's the fault. That's the wrong way of wording things. But like what you're most looking forward to about your new posting, Captain.
Out of character, does he really come off like a body language wise like a total civilian?
Yes, so Patel is very like civilian. He's very like he wasn't in Starfleet until recently, and he was granted a field commission basically as lieutenant commander or like OCS. He's also sort of like, I want to say out of character. He's sort of a little bit maybe on the spectrum kind of a thing. Like he's very
Sure.
awkward in social situations. So
You can relax, Patel. You seem a little off tilt a bit for my presence. I'm not going to harm you, nor I'm going to yell at you. If anything, since you're probably going to be my XO, I'd like to start up a friendship with you.
he breathes a dramatic theatrical sigh of relief and says, "That's a weight off my shoulders, Captain."
There's going to be a lot of hard decisions out here in space. It's not very safe, especially now. So you're going to have to adjust to being put on the spot. But you seem to be holding up pretty well, especially for a civilian.
Well, I do have some experience in terms of managing people, but those people are usually bratty students, if I may be so blunt, in a classroom setting.
It's not that different from a crew, to be honest. She smiles.
And what is Starfleet if not one big fraternity? Sometimes.
No, you think Starfleet's a fraternity? Wait until you meet the Makos. She smiles. And grins.
Patel allows himself a little smile there. He's trying to like for him. He's trying to still like absorb that he can be a little bit more direct with you, I guess.
Yeah.
But he smiles.
Do you know what a XO should do? Or should I fill you in?
The administrative tasks of an executive officer include things like personnel management and personnel reviews. And he starts running through like a list of basically almost like reciting the things he learned in OCS.
She'll like raise a hand briefly. She's still holding her stuff, so she'll raise her hand briefly like if she's trying to hold a hand to stop you. Right down to the ground of it. Get to know your department heads. Be friends with them. Try to manage to fulfill the tasks that your captain gives you to the best of your ability. Now, I understand this is a small ship, and I'm probably going to be. That's probably not happening as often as it normally would for a bigger one, but it's something you should think ahead on, and something you should work on. Get to know the rest of the crew just as much as I am.
Patel, like his eyes sort of search around the cabin of the turbolift as it's moving, like he's processing what you said, and says, "Okay, yeah, this makes sense to me, Captain. I'll think about this."
However, whatever I order, more or less should be the word of God. So if I say it needs to be done, it needs to be done. If you have a problem with me, you discuss it with me in private, not amongst the rest of the crew.
Yes, sir.
She smiles. You'll be fine.
As you cap that off, the turbolift arrives at Deck 2, and you're able to stride out towards your quarters. Is there anything else you'd want to do with that scene, or would you prefer to... are you good to move along?
You would notice that, weirdly, Patel, that she tabs the door before standing in front of it, and you can wait for like half a second longer. And then when she drops her stuff off, she double checks the computer, like physically, a little bit. Weirdly, she doesn't tell you why.
That's a detail that Patel would absolutely pick up on.
Yeah. The computer's fine, right? Should be clear. GM. I know it should be, but
Yep,
might as well
most certainly. The doors are working on this ship. They left after Tuesday.
Yeah. One small detail, you will notice a wedding ring on her hand as well. For anybody who I forgot the physical detail earlier. But yeah. All right. That was it. Just a little odd thing going on in her when she gets into her quarters. But then she just throws stuff onto her bed and just steps back out to head toward the bridge with you.
Gotcha. As you two are making your way towards the bridge, just a quick check around. Dr. Lambeth, is there anything in particular that you would be doing right now, or would anything you'd want to see? Hearing none, we'll I'll check in then. Romanov, is there anything that you would like to be doing right at this time? Or if so, anything you
Well,
would like to see
I'm
for?
gonna put this package under high security. So and that's key to the captain and probably myself. And of course, I would assume first officer, but I'll send that all up to the captain for final approval. And
Okay.
just make sure it's taken care of. And I'll have to know what it is. Just need a static power line or something.
I gotcha. I'll once again just to let you know there, Brian. It seems that you're coming in both very quiet and a bit staticky, robotic. I think those would be the.
Chair connections, man.
Yeah. Okay.
That's better.
Let me. Okay. So. Yeah, make sure that thing is secured, it's powered if it needs it, and it's under high security, and send to the captain, how he wants, security handling on this, who has access.
Oh.
But I will take a look at what it is.
You want to pop? Let's see. Sharp, do you think that the way the Franklin is, that they would have a security lock on that particular?
Yes, they would. 100%.
Okay. And would I be correct to presume that the coding to that would be exclusive to you, or would it be something that it would only require a certain level of clearance for command code to open?
Whatever standard protocols that would be, but so probably commander or higher.
That would make sense. And the question is, I guess the final question is, do you think that your Mako friends would have extended that courtesy to Starfleet, or made the codes cross-compatible?
Probably, just to be on the safe side.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So in that case, if you're saying that a commander's level access codes would be able to open the container once you arrive in the armory, I feel like we should probably move sets as well just to lay out that scene. So let's go over to the armory.
Okay, and once it's in the position in the armory that I want it, where safely it's stored and tied down, then I'll clear the armory. Okay, I don't know if the captain wants other people to know about this.
I see. So with the armory with the armory emptied, you open up the case, and I'm going to ask you to roll me. Let's call this a difficulty. Well, I think with the labeling, we're going to make this a momentum roll for you, or juice up the momentum. Difficulty 0, insight and engineering, let's say.
Okay. Diff 0, insight engineering.
Indeed. And if you have weapons-related engineering, then that focus applies.
I do.
All right, so
I have weapons engineering. I'm very familiar with this kind of stuff.
Yep.
Okay. So 2 dice and insight engineering, and
Yep.
I will roll now. Now the focus. Yep, I've got focus.
The focus
Okay.
just expands the range of critical success that you can roll. And that is 4 successes there, so that will be 4 momentum. Frankly, you only needed one of those successes to tell you that the Colonel has brought aboard a nuclear device. very specifically a warhead, which could very easily be outfitted to a torpedo.
Right.
It is a single
I will.
It is a single nuclear device, so you have only the one, but that's a unique advantage that you can call up at some point. Or for a single attack, you can now use the nuclear torpedo to attack.
Okay. I am going to call in one of my reliable officers, and for the captain's note, I have a value. Every meal is a bank. Every meal a banquet. Every formation a parade. Every paycheck a fortune. I run a tight engineering department, so I'll bring one person in because when you deal with ordnance like this,
The
actually,
nuke,
there's
the nuke is properly disabled at the moment.
well, yeah, but like whenever you secure something like this, you always have two eyes on. Whenever, even if you're just rolling it across, a hangar bay. So she's
yeah.
going to follow those protocols, secure this guy, and I'm ordering him. He does not talk about it. He's my helper with this particular thing. And I will secure it as it should be secured, as a nuclear weapon, but there is no direct mention of what it is. It's just secured in this part of the armory in this armored bay.
Yeah. As an aside GM, I would, and for you, Romanov, I would have informed our tactical officer as well
All right.
to secure it properly.
Shira
Okay.
will remember this and appreciate it. But yes, with your help and with the engineers, mate, you will go about being able to secure the nuke for safekeeping or for a later time. With all,
She does not play rock and roll music when securing a.
fair,
Oh no, no, no.
fair enough. I would imagine something much more mellow. Oh dear.
Sorry, excuse me. I've got a cold on top of everything else.
It seems to have broken reality, or at least your connection there.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. We'll worry about it later. Just for above board purposes, there is 4 momentum off of Romanov's roll there. I wanted to ask, does anybody wish to be designated momentum officer?
Not me. I do another game.
I did it last time.
I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you for
Okay.
volunteering there, Romanov. I'll send that over. So, yep, 4 momentum. With that, yeah, you are able.
And how much do we have? We have 4.
Yes.
4 momentum.
Yes, I have assigned the tokens in the roll 20.
Okay.
So, yeah, from there, I suppose we can cut over to if nobody else has other scenes, we will move ahead to the bridge and go from there. Would anybody like to do anything else en route to the final, or like en route to your ship's destination?
What do we know about this anomaly?
Uh,
Or this thing we're going to?
Well, strictly speaking, it is not an anomaly per se. You've been informed. I will go ahead and say, for everyone's purposes, and just so that everybody has mission directives available, you are being sent to the HD, or the star system HD 85512, where which is believed to be the last known location of the Starship Cruiser, an old survey craft. So records.
How long?
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if there's a question about like how long any information in terms of the just immediate stuff. The Crozier's been out of contact for a couple weeks. They had a bit of a window of time in case their investigation of the system took them a little bit longer than expected. They were due back to report, I want to say, almost a week ago probably a week ago by this time. Or it may have actually been longer since they were due back. They were due to report nearly a week ago when when the Aegis was at Earth. However, it's been about 10 days since then, so they have remained out of contact for the duration of that time. There's been no signal from the crew of the Crozier in that time.
Did it get lost in a known space lane or middle of nowhere? What's the region in which it's last seen?
So what all of you, one thing I can give you that all of you would know, the star system is a relatively isolated one, a bit off the path, but fairly close to Earth. It's about 37 light years away, so it's further out than relative in terms of relative distance compared against places like Vulcan, for example, which is more along the lines of 16 light years. But it's very easily within the range of a number of Earth's faster ships, and it was essentially the site of an exploratory probe, or rather an exploratory mission that the UESPA, or United Earth Space Probe Agency, would have sent something out. Granted, those probes moved a bit slower and they take longer to survey, so the only details that you would have about the Crozier's mission would have been that they were following up on a probe that had stopped transmitting in that area.
And the papers regarding the Crozier seem fine, right? Nothing suspicious about like files and mystery, anything like that, or oddities to it.
The Crozier's it is a pretty simple surveying vessel. So far as you know, you don't know the Starfleet officers involved particularly well, but the crew, so far as any service record would show, it seems to be fairly standard, top notch. No black marks on anyone's record or anything of the sort.
Okay. So I have a question for. Sorry, I'm getting used to names. Brian.
Yeah.
Did you send that email like before she came on board or around now? What?
It was waiting for you. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, she's being totally transparent on that.
Okay. Then GM, I would send the usual signal to whatever buoy we've decided that me and my wife decided on. To base that the sort of message of like, hey, I would like talk. It's probably regular, but the sort of thing of I want to know when she's available to do so whenever she checks.
Indeed.
And then I'll leave that for whenever I get a signal back, and then I will when I'm more comfortable. How long is this journey to the Crozier going to take?
With the Aegis, it'll barely take you a day at near top speed.
Okay. Should have like cleaned out the former doctors or former captain stuff. So probably like good couple like 2 hours out. She would have signed it to warp 4. What's the maximum speed for the Aegis?
Presently, warp 4.5.
What doesn't redline it?
I'd probably say 4
Like
point
4?
going above 4.35 is where it starts getting into more hazardous territory. You probably start feeling a bit of an unhealthy shake in the deck plates at 4.2.
Okay, let's go like at warp 4, even. If that's fine with Romanov and the Aegis, both.
Yeah. One other thing I want to do, ma'am.
And then, but once she's sure that Romanov has everything buttoned up,
Yeah, one. I was about to say. Can you
go
hear
ahead.
me?
I can now.
Yes.
Okay. One. Yeah. That's great. We'll push her a little bit. I'll keep an eye on it. And number 2, I'm going to start preparations internally for rescue teams. Moving supplies and stuff around so that in case we're faced with a rescue situation when we get there.
Excellent. Yep, seems fine for her. With her, she'll compliment you on that. But within like 6 hours into the trip or so, once I figure out the email and read through it, and by the way, is there anything else in the captain bin that I need to be aware of? GM?
Aside from mission parameters, I don't think so, unless anyone in the crew would like to volunteer anything.
Anything in the inbox, you guys?
Nope.
Dr. Lambeth? Anything?
No.
Ben?
Yep.
You good?
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Is there anything the doctor wants to send in her message box, as it were? Okay. All right. Then around 6 hours, I would call Romanov to the ready room.
Okay. She shows up.
Okay, I can
Ma'am.
certainly set up a scene there. Give me just one moment to move the
No worries.
appropriate tokens around. All right, we have Colonel Sharp, Commander Romanov, and let's move you over. All right, so in those hours before you arrive in the HD 85512 system, Romanov, you were called up to the ready room.
Okay. Show up. Ma'am.
At ease, Commander.
She,
I wanted to ask you regarding this message you sent.
yeah.
I like to hear in your own words. First off.
Okay, well, while we were resolving the situation on Alpha Centauri as we were getting ready to leave, I spotted a freighter that I figured out was carrying this artifact that had knocked me unconscious for a while, and that's what resulted in my discharge. I was at a medical facility on Earth for quite some time. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. If we bump into the ship again, we might want to consider trying to take a look at it.
Has the science division of Starfleet have gotten a look at the artifact itself?
GM?
If they did, they haven't told you.
As far as I know, no, they haven't seen it.
I see. And you're cleared for service?
Yes, completely. I'm just fine, ma'am.
Can I insight?
Well,
Somehow.
You are certainly welcome to do that, Romanov. If you wish to contest in any way, then you can do that as well.
No, no, she's not lying. She feels like she's pretty good.
In that case, you can make the roll sharp if you wish, but otherwise,
I'm
Inside medicine, inside command. What are you going for?
insight and command.
Diplomacy.
I don't think the focus would quite apply here.
Fair enough. No, I got nothing else for that. All right. 2.
All right, so since she's not contesting, the task would, I guess, work still at a base difficulty of 1, so I will assign 1 further momentum.
okay. So we're at 5.
Yep.
Ask me a question.
I guess I can ask you a question. Despite you thinking that you're fine, how does your body language look?
Her body language is pretty confident that she's just fine. If she's not fine, it's so deeply ingrained unfine that that you'd have to that it doesn't seem like there's any there. No.
And the realization of this, this is more of her speaking, and the realization of this cargo vessel and the reappearance of the artifact has not brought back any symptoms.
No, it hasn't. And I'm good at I'm keeping an eye on myself, just like the doctors told me to.
You've already informed Dr. Lambeth?
Yes, you should have full access to the files.
If you have any problems, Commander Romanov,
Yes.
even small ones, it's understandable, and nobody less you for it.
I know. I'll let you know immediately.
She nods.
And I consider this matter low priority, but I thought I should put it on your radar.
Certainly. I'm not necessarily used to small ships like this, so to some extent it's a little awkward, and I must apologize. Normally this would go to the commander, who would inform me.
Right.
But it is appreciated. I will certainly keep in the back of my mind if such things come up again.
Yeah, and it didn't hurt. It actually taught me something. Okay, so
She
now
raised an eyebrow.
that did not manifest until after I had awoken, and because of the type of discharge they gave me, they sent me out of Starfleet. So I was on Alpha Centauri when everything went down, and
I see.
it's enhanced my ability somehow to understand engineering that I may not be familiar with.
In what manner?
It's just easier for me. I don't have a way to explain that. So I believe it was the artifact's influence. I was knocked unconscious with some unusual neural patterns for 6 to 9 months.
I see. All right. It's understood. One final matter not related to the artifact. I wish to try to push this engine to the limit and work on improving it, even.
Sure.
Certainly, after this mission is done, I'd like you to give Lieutenant Commander Patel possibilities on how which you can slightly improve safely the engine to give us even just a few points towards a more stable light speed.
Okay. I'll start working on it once we're done.
Good. She smiles. Well, you're dismissed.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commander.
She heads on out.
She'll just as soon as the door closes, she'll wait a beat and just exhale and kind of slouch a little bit. Already one of those, huh? All right. She'll just go back to rest her work. And she'll add that to the buoy, or the signal
Okay.
that she might have. She adds to the signal that she might have a request.
Okay. Well, we'll sort some more of that out later.
Yep.
Until then, does anyone else have anything they wish to do before they arrive in the system? Okay. Hearing none, let us cut ahead to the final approach to HD 85512. We'll cut to the bridge, I suppose, and we have the standard crew, crew to monitor their stations. Romanov, Lambeth, if either of you would like to be on the bridge for arrival, then you may do so. Otherwise, we can just play as is here. Preferences?
I'll come up to the bridge.
Okay. Lambeth, would you prefer to stay in the... would you prefer to stay in sickbay, or would you also like to be on bridge?
I think he can stay. He'll stay in sick bay.
All right. Well then, Commander Romanov will come and join you on the bridge. She'll just pop out of the turbo lift.
How comfy is the captain's chair of a Daedalus?
It's... I mean, it's a quaint chair. These people knew a fair bit about how to design a ship, or like design a comfortable ship's chair. I don't know how advanced all the supports are or what have you.
Fair enough.
They do a fair job compared to what you're used to. So, yeah. With that, the navigator will call out, Captain, we are on final approach to HD 85512.
All right, slow to half quarter. Bring us out of warp. Slow to half quarter, half impulse, and bring us to yellow alert.
Sir, the alert protocols have been updated. I should say. It is strictly. Let's see here. Condition yellow. It still warrants a call to action stations.
Then switch over to condition yellow.
No. Mr. Crichton has been a very persistent person about that.
Thank you, Mr. Crichton. Switch over to condition yellow.
And with that, condition yellow will be called, and the hull plating will be polarized. Weapons will remain at standby, but not fully charged. So yeah, you are now in the system. How would you wish to proceed?
Oh, I thought it was the 24th century. Let's... Miss Romanov, do we have probes on the ship?
We got probes, right?
You do have probes. You also have an advanced sensor suite, I should say.
We also have an advanced sensor suite, so you got choices, ma'am.
let's send a probe onto the other side of the system while we scan with our advanced suite coming in.
Okay. Drop the order in.
All right. Well,
Isn't there a role for a probe?
so I'm going back over that now. We have in the player reference guide that the player should have reference. I've attached a space task folder which has reference to all of the different sorts of tasks that could be done. The probe task actually does not require a roll and
Cool.
has no difficulty. It actually reduces the difficulty to make a sensor sweep, however, which also falls under the science officer's tasks.
Mr. Patel, if you can do the honors, and let's see what's out there.
He said the line. Yeah, okay. I'll turn over to my console and uplink to the probe once it whizzes off into space on the view screen.
Okay. That would be a reason and science roll assisted by the ship's sensors and science. And between the advanced sensor suites and the advantage that the probe confers, the difficulty is reduced to 1 for this sensor task.
Pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's good. That will leave you with that will fill up your momentum and leave you with 1 floating. So allow me to just award that to Romanov real quick. And then allow me to just make sure that in the handout section you can see the following. If Roll20 will be cooperative. Waiting. There we are. So, and I should make sure that you can see it. Apologies here. So, a plot is pulled up showing roughly showing an orbit that includes 5 different planets, it seems. Based on the indications, I'll go ahead and say the outermost planets are all considered gas giants. Generally in the, I believe, Class J level, so between Saturn to Jupiter size. And there are 2 rocky inner planets. Those would be HD 85512B and C, respectively. The furthest out is a Class D planet, essentially the lifeless rock, basically. No atmosphere to speak of or anything else. B does appear to have an atmosphere, and Patel, there's more immediate, or there are other sensor readings that you have, which are now in the handout for you.
This is the sensor readout handout.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Captain, it looks like we have 5 planets, 3 gas giants. The most notable of which is, or of these planets is, I believe, what used to be called a super Earth sort of planet, a very large terrestrial class. I am detecting a metallic object that is consistent with SS Crozier. Near, I assume it's not clear from the readout, but GM, I assume it's near the second planet, the super Earth.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've relayed that over.
Any antimatter readings or anything of the sort? Is the ship warm or cold, Mr. Patel?
My reading is metallic only. It looks like there's some unusual static charges in the atmosphere of the planet itself, but GM, do I have any power readings?
Oh, that should actually be on the second bullet point, the second part of that.
Oh, right. Yeah, derp. No, there are no power emissions or engine readings coming from or around the ship or the planet.
No, I should say I meant to have put that as the Crozier, so that is my fault there, drone. I apologize.
Got it. Yeah, the ship looks to be lifeless. I mean, not lifeless in the sense of no life, Captain, but lifeless in the sense of no power.
Which half the time could very well say that. She just thinks for a moment. Any warp trails, impulse trails, anything that's inconsistent with the Crozier's signature?
I will freely give that. And say that there's nothing of the sort. I will also say that because you succeeded at that task like with flying colors, Patel, you do have a free obtain information, basically a question you can ask as pertains to the role. You can also, um, with the one floating momentum that you have, that can also be spent to ask a question.
So can I ask 3 questions then? Because I also have the studious trait, which lets me spend a momentum to get an extra question answered.
Oh yeah, that would definitely apply. That is a good use of the talent.
Okay, question number 1. Is the Crozier in orbit of the planet, or is it just nearby?
Based on the track of the Crozier, it would suggest that the ship is on like a very far eccentric orbit. It's essentially the orbital path that it's taking is one that is something outbound. So effectively, the Crozier is on a slow track, and by slow, I mean probably tens of thousands of years from now, it will escape HD 85512B's orbit and is going to go off out into the system elsewhere, presuming no other object makes contact with it before then. It's sort of what in the long run will happen with our own moon, but over a much larger time frame.
Can you
Got it.
look for suggestion? Could you look for debris in that impulse and warp trail?
Yep, that would have been question 2. Do I detect any sort of debris or like damage to the ship or anything like that?
From this range, you see no signs of debris or anything. I'll say at this point, you have enough sensor resolution with the probe, which is probably making a close enough pass that you get a look at the Crozier. Um, so let me move this up here. Catches it, on angle with the star system, but it is in an uncontrolled spin with no power emissions of any sort, just catching the light of the system from of the system's sole K-class star. Uh, it is, uh, it does seem to have a bit of carbon scoring or like signs of like essentially what you would consider burns or something near the deflector port on the front. However, it doesn't seem to be anything more than like a superficial damage, something that doesn't seem consistent with weapons fire, more so with just a discharge or overload.
Okay, and then question 3, and this might be cheating, but are there life signs on the ship or the planet?
That is one
And
of
if
the.
I have to choose one of the 2, I will choose the ship.
I will actually give you both. Um, The ship shows no signs of any sort of biosignature, um, or at least none of sufficient mass that you can detect. The planet, such that you can analyze it, doesn't seem to show anything at first blush. The static discharge in the atmosphere, and there's a very heavy cloud cover over HD 85512b. And it seems as though, from what you can get through the static discharge that encompasses most of the atmosphere, that there is this planet seems quite likely very barren, somewhat irradiated. It is, while it's technically within what would be the habitable zone, or what was thought to be a habitable zone of a Class K star, the levels of X-ray and far ultraviolet radiation that the star is putting out are just saturating this world. Some of it is being screened out, but it's enough probably that it seems to be completely disrupting any opportunity for life to form. So the atmosphere is like barren. It doesn't seem like a terribly pleasant place, except for as a probe rounds an area and finds a place, I'd say 20, 30 square kilometers or so, that shows what appears to be temperate Earth-like conditions. And indeed, signs of biosignatures, the greenery, plant, animal life, quite possibly. And that's about as much as the probe can show you.
On this barren planet, there's suddenly an area where it's all green fields and earth.
On a Mars-like planet, a super Mars-like planet, there is a patch of verdant green earth. Yes.
Yep. And indeed, if the sensor readings are bearing out, you're picking up an energy field that almost seems consistent with an artificial gravity field, something that could be rendering it to what you might consider Earth normal.
I relay all of that information back to the captain. Do I detect an elderly couple by chance living in the house?
Looking at the captain, high strangeness, ma'am. High strangeness.
I am very well aware, Miss Romanoff, but thank you. What bothers me is the damage on the Crozier. Is there any way we can turn the probe around and mimic signatures of a warp field or impulse?
The probe itself probably runs on a low impulse drive. Otherwise, you'd probably have to engineer something a little more specific and launch a separate probe.
You want a decoy, ma'am?
I want to see if there's any sort of thorns near that patch.
Yeah.
Let's move down to a quarter impulse, Con, and let's bring the first probe closer to this the planet, so in a similar orbit.
Mr. Conley will oblige you and reduce impulse speeds. As you begin your approach, in order to understand clearly, you are having the probe essentially go ahead of you and try to enter a closer orbit to see if the planet will respond in a hostile manner.
Yeah, the planet or something else from the impulse engine.
I see. I will not force a roll for that, and I will say that the probe is able to make a pretty decently close pass to the planet, and as safe as it can pass through without risking going into the gravity well. There is no response to it whatsoever, or nothing happens to the probe.
Can we get a good layout of that chunk of protected Earth space, Earth-like area?
I'd be willing to say that. If you wish to spend a momentum from your pool, then you can obtain slightly more information. or we can make it one more scan if the good professor is willing to roll.
Also, Miss Romanoff, given these scans on the Crozier, can you detail what exactly possibly is damaged?
Yeah, I would have to look a little bit more in detail. Let me sit down here and reconfigure a station. I'll analyze it.
I think we're also at 5 momentum because I spent 1 for my studious.
Yeah.
Well, you had a floating momentum from
Oh,
your
okay.
success, and because of Studious, that counted for 2 questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead and use I'm fine with using momentum. We have plenty of it.
Yeah, we've got 5, right? Yeah, 6, sorry.
We have 6.
Yeah, if you would like to spend 1, then that can take you down to 5, and I can give you information on what appears to be the layout.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. Well, the projection shows you a topographical map. There's some cloud cover that you have to compensate for, and some of that seems to be through an energy field, which you think is actually screening for a considerable bit of the radiation, such that it would be, once again, an Earth normal situation. Um, the bios like the bios the cartography of the area essentially shows you what appears to be a few small forested areas, some well manicured greens, and a structure that appears to be largely stone, some wood as well. For lack of a better term, it appears to be an old style castle or manor of a sort.
Oh god, I love this. TOS vibes already. It's great.
Yeah. This is very much my
You
shit here.
you see the captain, youngish he is, just sort of slightly sink and recede a little bit and kind of just rub their eyebrow a little bit in mild frustration. But yeah. Goddamn TOS era.
Oh, those old scientists.
Patel
All
is looking into his little like readout, his little visor thing, and just like interesting, fascinating. Oh wow.
Mr. Patel, is the Crozier's crew down on the space Camelot, as it were?
I assume GM that the atmospheric readings didn't let me get like life signs, right?
Um,
But I have like tertiary evidence that this place is being settled, and like you said, well manicured greens. Like there are people down there, right?
it would seem very likely that there are people down there, but I will say yes, that even with all of the advantages conferred, you can't quite screen through the energy field and determine whether there is crew in the whether the crew of the Crozier is down on that world. Um, it is probably something that you could your sensors might not exactly be able to get through, but I will say that there's the addition atmospheric conditions and the energy field are not such that they would completely obscure either transporters or shuttlecraft. But given that you can't detect the crew of the Crozier, you probably wouldn't want to use the transporter without something to boost the signal resolution for it.
Question. Based on the topographical, do we see signs of that people used lifeboats and that they crashed there?
Or actually,
There,
does the ship have its life pods intact or not?
Yeah, and does a good question.
I will give that to you for free as part of the earlier analysis you did of the ship. The vessel does not appear to have launched its life pods, or everything in the hull seems intact from that. There is also no sign of life pods on the surface.
Interesting. Captain, I detect no sign of life on the surface, but that's probably more because I'm having a difficulty getting concrete readings from the surface. I can say, however, that it doesn't look like the ship launched any life pods, from what I can understand. It's indeterminate at this time whether or not the crew is on the surface or not. However, the surface is clearly inhabited from other evidence.
Clearly. You're getting a small smile. It's a very faint smile. All right. I'd rather not get stuck much like them. Let's check on the Crozier first. She'll get up. Miss Rovanoff, Mr. Patel, you're with me. If you can summon Dr. Lambeth from his medical bay, we'll take a shuttle to the Crozier and check to see if there's any survivors or any details we can get from it.
I'd like to bring a couple of engineering people with portable power units.
Whatever you can spare, whatever can fit with us and inside a single shuttle, Miss Romanov.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, you assemble crew from the. You'll have some extra crew on the shuttlecraft.
I am doing the Star Trek thing and stripping the ship of all its command crew to go on a away mission. Yes.
I will say in the largely because he is momentarily away. Lieutenant Shira is going to insist that she is troubled by the notion of dispatching the full complement of flag officers, senior officers, probably partly due to the hijinks that went on last time, and given the minimal sign of imminent danger or need for security, she will offer to remain at the con.
And then Shira has command of the ship. Has the con.
Oh. All right. So, let's see. For the away mission, then we have Patel, Romanov, Sharp, Dr. Lambeth, and I'm looking through NPCs here. I suppose Ensign Garza, she's got red stripes on her shirt, so she can come as part of the engineering team. She's built off the damage control specialist archetype, so
That's what I want, is 2 damage control specialists who are comfortable going to places.
yep, I will give you that. So you will you can take take that group, and I'll remove a few people here. If you would like,
Everybody,
Conley can also be there technically as shuttle pilot, if it's so preferred.
sure. Everybody gets EVA suits because we don't know if there's even air on the ship.
Yep. All right. So before we head aboard, does anyone want any specialized or any other specialized equipment outside of the power units there? Does anybody
with-
carrying weapons want anything heavy?
Just normal phase pistols.
Actually,
That's right.
does the ship have atmosphere? That's probably an important question.
I will tell you there are signs of atmosphere, however, it is very cold aboard the ship right now.
I will put my jacket on over my uniform.
Under or over the EVA suit?
I mean, are we going EVA or?
Yeah, we're going EVA.
Okay, then never mind.
And also, let's observe biohazard protocols. I don't think that applies here, but it's always smart.
Yeah. Well, the EVA.
Understood.
Yep. Okay. So.
Yeah, I might need a quick reminder on proper biohazard protocols. I mean, I've read the base stuff, obviously, but it's not the kind of thing I'm used to having to deal with
That's
in my old line of work.
Fair
perfect.
enough. Romanoff will go through it with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
The basics. I mean, since you are going in an EVA suit, there's not a whole lot that you are going to need to worry about. Obviously, should you choose to restore atmosphere aboard the Crozier, if you're even able to restore atmosphere aboard the Crozier, then that will. They'll probably want to. It would be advisable to do medical scans, probably use some equipment, take samples of anything unusual in the main areas, maybe limit where ventilation has access, and then, of course, when you get back to the ship, if you've had any exposure outside the EVA suit, then I'm going to say that things have upgraded in the decon chambers. You don't have nobody has to rub gel on anybody now. It's just like a simple kind of like gas or pressurized gas type spray, maybe a like some sort of shower type setup in UVA light. I don't know. There's no rubbing of gels on anyone in this Star Trek adventure. That is canon now.
We're not going full Birmingham, huh?
We're
Berman.
Berman, yes, yeah, yeah. No, none of the no nobody is rubbing gel on their fellow crewmen.
Nobody's gelling.
No.
Nobody's gelling.
Yep. So, in any case, yeah, the shuttle pod launches from the shuttle pod launches from the Aegis. They At present, Sharp, you will note that the shuttle pods have not been given any particularly fancy names. They are simply the Aegis shuttle pods Alpha and Beta.
All right. Yep.
I will say now that if the crew wishes to pick names of significance, then they may do so at their convenience, but that will be settled either in a separate scene or between sessions. At any rate, the shuttle pod makes its way over to the Crozier. You are able to match the rotation of the ship as it steadily lifts from bow towards its stern. Essentially, I believe yawing would be the appropriate gesture, or rather appropriate phrase, where it's rolling, it's essentially tumbling backwards. Yes. So you are able to align with one of the docking ports, and Ensign Connolly will gently ease the ship to where the the airlock on the top side will connect with the airlock to the Crozier. It doesn't look like they've got power for artificial gravity there, so it looks like you're going to want to have your mag boots on once you get in there.
She'll seal her helmet and wait for everybody else to, before nodding. So noted. She will manually unlock the door, the hatch.
All right. And so you, in EVA suit, the five of you enter the Crozier, which for reference here, first, before we do anything, I'm just going to give each of you a marker to indicate that, let's say, something that would be most appropriate, or a symbol most appropriate to signify that you are on some sort of biohazard protection. You know, I'm going to give you I'm going to use this mask here to indicate that you are fully helmeted and suited for entry here. and I will let you disengage that at will. Should any of you choose to disengage it. So yeah, you enter the you move through the sort of bow hatch of the shuttle pod, and your orientation changes as you manually are able to open the hatch of the Crozier. The manual override is necessary, of course, since the Crozier is currently unpowered. The seal to the ship breaks, and you find yourselves as your footing connects to the deck plate. You find yourselves in an unlit corridor, um, very much, pretty much exactly like the Aegis in many respects for the interior. So let's shift you to a set here. There you are.
Is there no? I'll put my gloved hand against the plating of the wall or ceiling or floor, whatever orientation I am.
Mhm.
Is there any vibration or pulse of like a power at all, or is it just completely cold?
It's pretty cold. The only sort of sign of any energy or any life to this might be residual emergency chemical lights that are going, as do pop up in emergencies on a starship. At this stage, however, it's probably been some weeks. They are starting to go out very largely.
All right. She'll turn on the flashlights, the luminance on her suit, and look around. Is it immaculate? Is it look like any kind of fighting or anything like that?
Yeah, if it weren't for the fact that there were no power and maybe not the occasional errant crewman walking through here, it's a dead ringer for your own airlock. No signs of anything out of the ordinary other than that.
All right. She'll just look around, look over to Dr. Lambeth. Um, Anything on the tricorder, Doctor? Anything dangerous?
I'll take a quick look.
Okay, doctor, give me a medical scanner, or well, rather a medical scan roll. So this will be reason and medicine, and I will ask for difficulty 1. Or this will be a
Okay.
difficulty of 1.
Reason medicine difficulty.
Yeah, which is to say, you get the standard task roll of 2, and there's no addition to the complication range. And yeah, you get 2 successes. So you earn back a momentum here. Based on the readings that you are getting, there are no signs of any residual radiation, biological, or chemical agent of any particular concern. Certainly, at least nothing in a known database, and nothing that your sensors would call out of the ordinary. At least on the ship right now, or in this section of the ship, and anything else within range. You know there are probably some limitations to your medical scanner, but you'd be relatively confident that there's nothing here.
Yep. Yeah. We're clear. There's nothing here that I can see. No kind of biological contaminants. Nothing like that.
Air supply.
I will say that your readouts would show that the air it's a bit stale. Life support hasn't been circulating for some time, but nobody seems to have been breathing most of the air, if any of it, terribly recently. It is, however, quite cold, so until environmental systems are restored, your EV suits are probably the safest bet.
Yeah, it's a little chilly and a little stale. Probably best to keep the EV suit on until the life support has a chance to cycle everything through properly.
Can I get a guess when life support is used?
I don't think that you'd have enough information right now. Really, the best readout you could get would have to be you'd have to access a computer, which would either mean finding it.
I was
As
going to
the
see if there's a filter in the hallway, and if I could look at that filter and base whatever its change rate is, try to guess any information I could.
as a Voidborn, can I assist in that? Because I would have a natural, inclination of the size of the ship versus how much air should be in the air.
I'll allow for an insight and engineering role. Romanov, you can take lead on that, and Captain, you can assist.
Okay.
This is going to be insight and engineering with a difficulty of 3.
Ooh, that's
you guys
big.
want? We have, I believe, 5 momentum, right?
Yep.
You're actually back to 6, thanks to Dr. Lambeth.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Let us. I will assist. My engineering isn't that great, nor my insight, but I still will assist. I have space navigation. I basically try. I didn't know what the proper term would be for a focus, but basically, if it's inside of a asteroid or starship, I have a general idea of where to go and what I'm doing. I don't know how to best phrase as a focus name.
Let me.
Boomer.
Jim.
You're a boomer.
Yep.
I would be prepared to grant you that.
All right. I don't have anything at the moment.
Do you guys want me to spend 1 momentum on this?
Yeah, do that. She's 3, so 1 to get 2 extra dice.
Okay, so I'm going to be rolling 4 dice, 1 complication, insight, engineering.
Right. To clarify,
might...
you said you were rolling 4 dice there.
Right, because
Okay.
we're adding 2, right? So our momentum is now down to
3.
3.
Okay. If you care to drop that momentum after the roll, please.
Oh, okay. Don't put the momentum in the roll, just roll 2 dice.
No. I was saying just here. I'll go ahead and take the momentum out of your hand there, as it were. You'll notice that the you have a momentum symbol, or a momentum symbol above your name in the Roll20. What you could do is actually click that to open it, and then just pull out the tokens and drop them. I've already taken those, so you may roll at will.
Okay.
Okay. And that is 3 successes in total with the captain's assist there.
So look at the captain. You know your stuff.
I've been in space long enough, she says, with a wink.
Well,
I've worked with boomers. My family used to work on boomer ships out of Alpha Centauri.
Yeah.
I know a lot of boomers. Though I'm Terran based. She smiles. Just a natural inclination.
So, Romanov, your best guess as you and the captain are looking this over and noting what seems to have been recent activity with the filter, I'd say that it's probably nearly been 2 or possibly almost. It's probably nearly been a month at this point since life support on the ship was properly used.
1 month. Yeah.
I was gonna say 5 weeks, but she nods and smiles. All right, Dr. Lambeth, Miss Romanov, head over towards engineering. Get this ship started if you can. Mr. Patel, you're with me. We're going to the bridge and see what we can see what they were looking at before everything went down.
You want one of the engineers with you just in case they can start something portables?
If you can spare.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll have one engineer go with them and one's with.
Gotcha. I realize I've only given you one engineer there, so it might have been a very slightly cramped fit, but I will give you that. I will give you one of the other engineers on the staff there to come and join you. So, in that case, let's see. Ben,
We don't know what's on the ship, so keep frosty and be careful.
Sounds good, man. Frosty. Got it.
Okay, Ben, Drone, I'm going to ask both of you to roll me. Actually, I think we're going to bypass sort of narrative initiative order, as it were, and let's follow the officers trying to restore power first, or at least making their way through the ship. So, Romanov and Dr. Lambeth, I will give you. I'll go ahead and give you Chief Fernier. So we'll move over to an engineering set. Let me just reorder a few tokens here. So it is slightly it's slightly slow going, making your way through the halls of the Crozier. Neptune classes, as older, more compacted ships, do tend to be. The layout is fairly simple compared to what you are used to, or rather, it's very compact. It's easy to navigate in the sense that small ship, so it's easy to get where you need to go. But it's also a little awkward to navigate because the design ethos is similar to a Daedalus class insofar as the interiors are a bit more submarine-like. It was transitioning from what you have on a Daedalus class to what exists in an NX class, which still in and of itself isn't the most spacious of designs. Then there's the added difficulty of you are navigating in dark hallways with flashlights, the flashlights that are built into your suit helmets in order to help navigate, essentially. But luckily, you are able to proceed without any issue. There are no signs of floating bodies anywhere along the way. And within a few minutes, you reach the door to engineering.
Okay. We'll probably have to force it open.
Yeah, not particularly looking forward to this. I think a good engineering and fitness roll could probably get this open.
Okay, sounds good. I'll get one side, you get the other.
Oh, alright. Give it a shot.
And I'll brace and use my legs.
Yeah, are we both doing engineering fitness?
I'm engineering fitness 15, so I'm positioning myself in such a way that I'm maximizing this build.
Yeah.
And I'm using my legs.
You can roll the assist, and doctor, I'm willing to give you medicine, just since you probably know
My engineering fitness is 8. So
Jeez. Yeah. You know, you're a little wiser about how with with the frame that you grew up with, you know how best to gain leverage in or when dealing with heavy situations, shall we say?
fitness medicine then.
Yep.
Okay, here we go.
Just one dice first.
Single die for the assist. You are correct.
And I wasn't going to spend momentum on this.
Oh dear, that's a complication right there.
Okay.
So that is
No help.
that is one success rolled, and that is a complication from Commander Romanov. So I'm going to ask Commander, do you wish to buy off that complication with momentum or determination? Do you wish to accept the complication? And if you do accept it, would you prefer to give me threat or accept a narrative complication?
Guys, what do you want to do? Do we buy it off? We've only got 3 momentum right
I don't know. It's might be interesting to see what the narrative would be.
now. Okay, let's go with narrative.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
up to you. It's your character, my man.
Right, but the momentum's a team.
It's your call.
You know, but
Yep.
Um,
I'd be happy for you to spend it, but also you don't have to.
so let me just hear a vote. Who wants to buy it off? Momentum. Spend.
I have no
We
preference.
might-
Yeah.
Um,
this is your decision here, dude.
I'll go with narrative. I want to save the momentum for when we get into engineering.
Okay. The door is stuck for a bit of a time. With one success there, you just managed to wedge it, but in the process you lose your footing, and actually you lose it in such a way that your mag boots miss the connection, so you are floating back a ways until the suit catches on a bit of the one of the bulkheads. There's a
Okay.
slight hiss as one of the hoses to your suit disconnects. Your air supply is now being exposed to the outside ship.
Okay, I'm going to correct that, but that's not a good thing. So I will try to fix my own suit, as my suit catches, and I'll stop my move and try to fix the suit.
All right. Yeah. With that, you are able to reconnect the air supply. However, that is you are very aware that this is sudden contamination and exposure to uh, whatever may be here, and undoubtedly as part of this complication, you can't help but think back to your last mission aboard the Level.
Right. Okay, well, I will make sure the filtration in is high, and I've got the dock, so I'll let the
Oh.
dock
Are you
know.
are you telling everybody else what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Let them know my oxygen supply might have picked up some local air. I might have been exposed to local air while fixing my oxygen supply.
There's a pause before saying, "Doctor."
Yeah. I mean, nothing. There was nothing in the air that we could find, so you should be all right.
I should.
But let me know if you stop feeling sick.
Okay.
The door is partially wedged open, so for the half of the crew that is in engineering, or just outside of engineering, I'll say that you at least get a peek in. The scale is probably a bit smaller compared to what you are used to, but it is a very similar engine layout. It is probably a bit of a tight squeeze since the door likely didn't open all the way, but you could probably make it through one at a time if you so wished. And everything in here is completely dead as well. No blinking lights, panels, or anything of the sort. It is a dead engine.
Okay. Head on in. And start looking around, trying to figure out what the condition of the engines.
Okay. Yeah. Every panel around you seems quite dead, inoperable. There's nothing presently powered in here, just from all the readings that your Mark 1 eyeball can give you.
Yeah. I'll be. Dr. Lameth will be just keeping an eye on the tricorder, seeing if things like the air changes in this room or anything like that.
I will give you, Doctor, that there's no signs of any unusual biological or chemical agent, nor even strong residual signs of radiation.
Which is good. That means the deck plating is working just fine in terms of shielding, normal shielding. Space
Head
dirty.
over to
Space
the
is
main
really dirty.
engine power control system and see if I can use a portable battery to just turn that on and see if I can get some kind of status on where the engine's flat.
As a player, the ships run on antimatter, so how is that doing if there's no power?
You have to jumpstart the antimatter mix process.
Well, I mean,
But there's
antimatter.
magnetic containment is more what I think he's getting
Yeah,
at.
there's magnetic containment. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a ship. We would have space dust.
Yep.
Well, that's a good question. So probably it went into some emergency mode. What is the status of the matter anti? Is it everything in the containment units? Those
Well,
are self.
you can. I'll give you a control and engineering role to figure out what would to try and basically hook up the portable power pack you have. Chief Fernier will assist, and you can start getting readouts from the engine. Ooh, that is 4 successes there, which I'm going to say is more than enough. Since it's a cold start, I realize I neglected to assign a difficulty to the task. I will say that it was 2 from the cold start that you were working with, but that'll still give you back a couple of momentum. So Chief Fernier helps you hook it in. Matter of fact, I will allow him to roll a support die here. Just one moment as I go back to his sheet here. So that is control engineering. And I'll count repair processes as a focus. But I only meant to roll a single die there. That's my mistake. So that will refill your momentum. With that, that will fill you back up. And as he does that and you start looking over the readouts, what in the great bird in the galaxy? There's nothing left.
There's nothing in the containment units.
The ship's antimatter supply has been completely exhausted.
Well, that'd be why the engines are off.
That's also insane.
He like Chief Fernier scratches his head and he looks over the barely illuminated display. I'm trying to bounce around a little bit to the other system so that but what I'm not getting a readout from the impulse engines either. That could be possible. The ship's besides. Commander, you know this means that this ship has completely expended. The ship must have completely expended any sort of power level or ordnance, or lost it somehow. There's uh, beyond what even a fusion reactor or warp reactor could keep track of. Uh, these old Neptune-class vessels are meant for long-term operation, even if they're slow. The ship would have been equipped for years.
Right. That's correct. So something happened here.
That mean that
Could someone have just like taken the antimatter?
I'm.
Just
I
work like
mean,
that?
it's possible, but that you don't understand. I don't know who could have taken it, or rather, who could have done it without any signs of any sort of struggle. Which, as far as I know, with this the briefing we got before the mission, there's nothing of the sort. And I can't imagine the crew wanting to extract all of their antimatter supply, which, frankly, you'd only generally be able to do in a dry dock. I'm flabbergasted here. You understand the whole EPS systems, or the whole EPS grid is just completely, it's practically frozen out. The battery's only just barely getting this to work that we have any readouts at all.
Right.
Holy
Well,
shit.
okay, so
I'm gonna look.
that's a mystery and a half then.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at my suit battery, and just based on how long I've been using my suit, is the battery levels in my suit appropriate to that?
Uh, power levels for life support systems and light functions appear to be proceeding at normal or predicted drain levels. So
Okay.
there's no signs that any of your equipment is being drained at a faster rate than is normal.
Okay.
As a player, it's like as if a nuclear sub suddenly had their reactor go from normal reactive rods to inert rocks in the process of like a year. They're not even nuclear waste. It's just rocks.
Yeah, the fuel's completely gone, and it shouldn't be.
Indeed, indeed. Um, let's see. So yes, as the good as the good doctor says, a mystery and a half here. Um, While you were trying to figure that out, first I'd like to ask, is there any other particular task you wish to attempt from here before we cut back to the other half of the away party, or landing party? I think the parlance now would actually be boarding party. Either way, anything else you wish to do?
Report this up to the captain.
All right. Well, we'll have that interlude then with the next scene here, which will say that as the crew is, or rather, as Romanov, Lambeth, and Furnier are sorting out are learning of the very unusual power situation with the very unusual power situation with the Crozier. The other three officers arrive on the bridge. So let us move there. It's been a more difficult process for you, I would think, because at a certain point, there's only so far that you could walk in order to get there. And it very likely required prying open a turbolift door just to basically climb up the shaft, which thankfully in 0G doesn't mean that or you're not having to do that much strenuous work to pull yourself through the shaft, as it were.
Nope. If anything, we just walk up it.
Yeah. How's everybody in that group feeling with their 0G training?
Oh,
Everyone's fine.
Patel's not doing great.
Oh,
Glad I had a light
Just
lunch.
curl your toes, Commander. It helps. Curl and uncurl them.
I'll give it a try, Captain.
mm, I with the captain's encouraging advice there, I will not force you to roll any sort of medical check to maintain your composure or not lose what little food you ate. But yes, you eventually arrive at the bridge level, at which point the engineering specialist with you will start working to pry open the door.
I'll help.
I'll ask you to give me a security and actually I won't. I won't ask you for a roll. You're topped out at momentum.
Also, I'm pretty damn good at it too. So.
Yep. Yep. So, as you pry open the door, you find, for all intents and purposes, a pretty close layout to what the level has. I'm using or rather the Aegis has. I'm using that. There's my other game intruding again. I'm using it for, I'm giving you basically the same bridge for reference. I would say that if there was any difference, it is probably that there is only a single spot for the helm console, or flight control rather. Helm and navigation on this ship are probably a single function, which is common on some of the smaller ships, although the NX class did streamline it down to single pilot usage, essentially.
Right.
But as you break into the bridge, once again, lights are off. No displays appear to be functioning. Panels aren't illuminated. It's
No
empty.
corpses.
No corpses. No signs of life.
Plasma scarring. No plasma scarring. Nothing like that.
This is. If it weren't for the fact that it were completely inert, this would seem like a perfectly normal bridge.
Is there a black box or anything like that? The equivalent on a ship?
There'd probably be something in the main computer, which I'll say is somewhere kind of amidship or maybe a little forward.
Okay.
And there's also always a records pod that is usually launched from a ship just before its destruction as well.
Right. She'll look to the engineer and say, if you can hook it up, crewman. Commander, to your station.
Walk over to the familiar station, the eerily familiar layout of this bridge. He's looking around, sort of in amazement of it.
Yeah. The engineer that joined you, one Ensign Garza, will.
Ensign. She'll say ensign. My apologies.
Yep. But she'll head over to the science station with you as well, which, incidentally, you should all be able to move your tokens. If anyone has a problem, please let me know.
I cannot move my token.
Yours is actually the most recent that was introduced, so of course I forgot about that one. Allow me to fix that now. There we go. But Garza is going to go ahead and we'll just set this as the advantage that she is able to hook in a power system, and the science station starts blinking to life very slightly. It's only a handful of buttons at first.
I'm hop over the communication area.
Gotcha.
Um,
EPS relays seem to be pretty cold right now, sir, so I don't know. I wouldn't expect a whole lot of functionality from the other systems. That's really weird. Reserve power seems to be. There are reserve power nodes, batteries essentially, that are all over the ship. I'm getting a zero readout from them.
That should be impossible. Good to know. Thank you, Ensign. If there's any way you can divert power to ship's main computer and to the science section, that'd be most beneficial.
I can get you at least a little bit, probably enough for some data, but until we get if we're able to get main power back online, then I might be able to give you some more. I'll start coordinating with Commander Romanov very shortly.
Thank you.
But until
I'm going to use.
until then,
Sorry.
she's going to give you a bit of time to access some data. But by all means, go ahead.
I'm using my highest clearances to rip out the captain's log and commander's log.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to say that if you would like to attempt that, I will give you a control and command roll. And I'm going
Cool.
to with that it will be difficulty 2, and I am also going to drop a point of threat to increase the complication range by 1, so a total of 2.
Okay. Well, I have cautious command, which I do believe. Let me look up the talents. Sorry.
Cautious allows you to re-roll a die when you purchase an extra die with momentum. So
Okay. So I'll spend 1 momentum to get myself an extra die. I will use. Actually, I'm going to use. Fortune favors the bold, as I am definitely going to try to rip out as much as my command allows of the ship.
You're invoking a value for this one?
Yes.
Are you using that for an automatic crit, or were you wanting to...
I'll use it for automatic crit.
Okay. That will automatically...
So it's complicated task roll, command and control. I have 3 dice.
Indeed.
Okay. That should be it. And let's... I didn't even need it.
All right, so that'll be 5 successes in total with the auto crit from your determination there, which will be 3 in excess of the difficulty. The computer.
I also want to see if there's any high-level commands that were given that were not finished, and if they, like, such as self-destruct, I want to make sure they don't continue.
Okay, I will give you that shortly. The computer is starting to work here. It is working very slowly, as Ensign Garza warned. While this is happening, Mr. Patel, what would you be doing?
So the systems are sort of coming up very slowly, and I guess Patel's like looking just to see, like, as this power is coursing through the system, like what is coming live at any given time, like what am I able to access? And so I'm gonna sort of assume, like, the one thing that I'm thinking is, like, so how like a motherboard has a battery on it to manage the clock.
Yeah.
Like, does the ship have an external battery or whatever that's been keeping track of the chronometer? Like, I want to check the time, basically, to see what the ship is reading as the time.
I'm going to say that the ship's chronometer has not updated within the past month, so it still reads as very near the beginning of May, before the Aegis even put to space.
Okay, so like the clock stopped at some point, basically.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Which suggests that power systems were drained from even those particular backup batteries.
Got it.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, besides that, I guess just going through like sensor logs of just before, if we can access those in some way, from like just before the ship lost power.
Yep.
Like if the ship ran into anything, or if they detected anything unusual right before this event happened.
Yep. It is also again slow going in order to detect the systems here. It seems as though there were. It does seem as though the ship was running routines. There's some sensor logs that show routine um, stellar cartography scans, a little bit on file as pertains to a little bit as pertains to some scans around HD 85512b, the world that it was that you discovered the Crozier near. They don't seem to have learned anything more than you, however. Um, and then past that, power seems to have terminated sometime in the past. Power seems to have terminated sometime in about the past month, and that's where the sensor logs seem to go out.
Can I look at internal sensors? And like my thinking is, can I see if the like, did the crew disappear before the ship lost power, or did they disappear at the same time or after?
A good question. Since the captain scored some floating momentum there, if you're so willing, Captain, I will
Go
grant that.
for it.
Yep, I'll grant that as an obtain information here. Um, it seems as though the last sort of records of the crew suggested that there were internal biosigns readings over the last few days. There's the crew of the starship Crozier, which for those that want to see a character sheet here for it, I will go ahead and display that. The crew of the starship Crozier would have been about 38 officers and crew in total. It seems as though those levels were normal until the last couple days. It seems that, based on the sensor records, there was maybe a 2 or 3 day lull between when the ship arrived in orbit of HD 85512b and when the crew started to abandon ship, essentially. It seems as though they took shuttle pods down, which I will say you did not detect signs of earlier.
We didn't detect signs that the shuttle pods were gone, or we didn't detect shuttle pods.
You didn't detect shuttle pods on the surface.
Okay. But the ship's complement of shuttle pods is currently empty, right?
Yes, there are no readouts show that there are no current shuttle pods. The last readouts of life signs showed that there was one crew member that was on the bridge and one that was in sickbay. As power levels, as the internal sensors went offline around the time when you could guess that power systems went inoperable, it seemed as though the crewman that was on the bridge made their way back to a shuttle bay. The crewman that was in the medical bay did not leave as of the time that the sensors were inoperable.
Captain, I'm getting a lot of very interesting logs from the internal sensors on the ship, but one thing is standing out. I think there might still be a crew person left on board in the medical bay.
It is also at this point, Colonel, that your comm badge would beep as Commander Romanov and Dr. Lambeth make contact.
Mr. Romanov, Dr. Lambeth. Keep saying Lambert. Lambeth.
Yeah, well, we're in the engine room, and we've been looking around. We're not gonna be able to get power back online because there's no antimatter in the reactor thing.
She'll just like raise her helmeted head from the communication screen and kind of look over to Patel, kind of wonder. That's not. Was the antimatter ejected?
Doesn't show any signs of it. Looks like they just used it all up somehow.
While when he mentions that, can I run like some sort of quick local scan to detect like was there an antimatter matter explosion in the area recently? Like there's got to be some kind of radiation left over from that if that happened.
There's not enough power in the Crozier to run that type of scan. You could, however, run a quick line to Mr. Crichton if you want to double check.
I'll do that off camera.
Okay. To which he will give you the reply. No signs of any residual antimatter explosions of any kind.
Noted.
How about the backup, the emergency batteries? She says to Romanov. Even a survey ship should have one of those. Hello? Did I?
Hey there, Brian.
Brian. No, Brian, you're muted, my man.
Yeah.
I'll just have Fernier interject.
Yeah, please. I can't remember all the technical details.
Cap, you don't get it. It's all gone. The fusion.
I'm so sorry. I clicked the wrong button, and it's. And could we charge their batteries from our ship?
I mean, that might be possible if we could configure the deflector to transmit a coherent power beam, and if we route it through their deflector at a very careful level, then that might at least bring some of the auxiliaries back online. But like, we're working from a completely dead ship. The deuterium and tritium reserves have been completely expended. The matter, the antimatter in magnetic containment is all gone, which is bonkers, by the way. And all of the battery systems, as near as I can tell, are dead. The EPS system doesn't even deserve to be called that because the plasma's cooled down. This is a completely dead ship.
There you go, ma'am. There's your options. We can jumpstart it, but it's going to take a
With the slow uptick, GM, I got a question. There is a general order that says if a ship is unmanned for more than a day, it has to self-destruct. It even automates it. Does that still exist at this time period?
I don't believe it does yet.
Okay.
Or at least not for Starfleet in this era.
I just wanted to make sure.
The Makos might have something, but Starfleet less so.
Yeah, I just didn't know like if I was even more now had to be wondering if there's an auto destruct. Yeah. All right. She'll signal the shuttle. How is the reactor on the shuttle doing?
Ensign Connolly is on the reports back.
Connolly, here we go.
All power generators read nominally, Colonel. Captain, sorry. I'm still new to the terminology myself here. But we're doing okay here. Everything's fine here. How are you?
I'll let you know in a moment, Connolly. She'll switch over the Aegis. There you go.
Aegis.
Aegis, and say, Lieutenant Shira, please move the ship at the maximum distance for the shuttle and away from the planet. She looks over to Patel. I'd rather not get stuck just as much as this ship does. Miss Romanoff, how much power can you get from the batteries we took? How much time do we have with the batteries we took?
Those are small batteries. They'll power. How long will they power station? GM.
You could probably reliably get a few hours out of that. Of course, that would be. It's plus or minus some time depending on how much power you expend and what you use them on. I'll go ahead and say this probably is. It's definitely not enough to like bring up a ship system ship wide across the area. So this isn't going to bring back all of the life support systems or even
Right.
allow you to run like an engine weapon or anything of the sort. Localized, you might be able to bring back a few systems for a time, however, to varying degrees of intensity. So if you hooked one up to like an environmental control system, you might get like a deck or two if you seal off the ventilation, something close to comfortable.
Okay, outline that for the captain.
Getting information you can from the engineering before removing the power from it and make your way to the med bay. Doctor, there might be a remaining crewman that could require your attention. I want not. Let me be very clear to everyone in the away team. I want no machinery or living being from this ship moving to our ship without proper uh, examination to ensure that we do not have an equal amount of or an equal problem brought to us.
Right, well, I'm on my way, but this ship's got no power. If there is someone in the medkit bay in serious condition, then
Then
there might not be much I can do for them here.
bring the power pack to that you have in engineering to the med bay. Localize it if need be, but given the fact of the state of the ship, I want to treat it as just as infected as any crewman here.
Yeah, right, fair enough. I'm on my way.
Yep. So as they proceed, Captain, I will say that some log information is available for you now.
Okay, what do I got?
Well, remind me, you wanted the final log, you wanted the final sort of officer's logs, or did you have a
Yep.
particular range of?
Captain, commander, science. I'll make way from captain, commander, science officer, and security officer, and then make way from through there. Though now that I know it's engineering, I'll probably do captain, commander, science officer, and engineering, and
Okay,
make security last.
gotcha. I will ask for a momentum just for obtaining the information here, which I guess this would be your last floating one technically.
Yeah.
So, you look it over. The first entries you get are from a Captain Clark Ross. Um, appears to be a roughly middle-aged command officer. Maybe the occasional streak of gray and some otherwise brown hair. We'll say it's more of a salt and pepper type setup, slightly pale complexion, um, but otherwise fairly, I'd say, fairly slender in appearance, like he looks like he's aging well otherwise for a human of the era. He'll go at length about a couple of the logs, mentioning that they were trailing an old UESPA probe that was supposedly out in the system, um, and they may as well fill in some time with a planetary survey, try to acknowledge things. A log, roughly a month and a half prior, states that they're approaching the system and that they're coming into close range with no sign of the probe. Closer to the time frame that the ship went dark, there's discussion of actually an interesting reading on the world, specifically signs of what appears to be a habitable region of the planet. Um, One that should not exist given its mass and both mass and the radiation being put out by the ship's star. As in classic Star Trek tradition, he assigns an away team consisting of much of the ship's senior staff, and they head on down. Um, Captain Ross does not report into the ship for a time, so a sort of third watch command officer essentially is barely a full lieutenant. It enters and reports over the next couple days, hearing back that they found a most pleasant and idyllic site. And there's mentions of a groundskeeper by the name of Tussaud that has befriended the crew. Within a few days, there is another log from Captain Ross, and he seems like just absolutely serene. There's traces of a smile about his face as he looks to the screen and says, "None could ask for such a nice place as this." I must say that I'm rather looking forward to going to look at it. Doctor was saying something, but I don't recall. The food truly is quite lovely. But we'll all be down soon, and all be quite well. And the very last signs of like orders for anything is that it seems to show that Captain Ross gave the order to abandon ship. The crew steadily made their way down to the surface. Within those days, it seems that teams were sent in waves after the initial away team traveled down, and that by that last day, Captain Ross himself was the one who initiated the beam.
All right. That was just the captain. Is there any chance I can get into the commander or the exos or
The XO, who
science?
probably also dueled as a science officer, never reported back in after the away mission.
Okay. How about
There
engineer?
might have been a few logs from the chief engineer saying something about the complexities of setting up a coherent energy beam with the deflector, but they were sure they could do it. They were kind of slow and skimpy on some of the details, but they seemed to have the same sort of general serene, bemused tone to them. You get the feeling they weren't entirely there when this happened. The doctor mentioned something about a log, saying that they were having a little bit of trouble concentrating, that the helm officer is presently undergoing some sort of medical test after they return from the surface, and they expect all will be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
GM, there's a similar experience that I probably experienced to some degree back in my covert times. Does it match that pheromonic tendency?
I know
Had
where you're
to,
going, and the answer is not exactly, or it's. It seems that all the crew was affected very equally by this, such that any other logs you might pull come up.
how often is Tassad mentioned in any other logs? I'll quick search it.
How much is what?
The name Tassad has come up in other logs.
Tussaud is maybe mentioned very sparingly by a couple of the other senior officers, such that anyone reports that's the name comes up once or twice and is only spoken of in very strictly complimentary terms.
Of course it is. All right. Doctor and Dr. Lambeth and Miss Romanov, I would highly advise at this point to treat everything as contamination protocols.
Yeah.
There is some sort of effect that had affected the crew, and persuade them in a very pleasant manner toward an individual. Let's make sure we don't join them in that degree.
And there's no sign that this pheromone related, correct?
Doctor,
I mean, can't see any pheromones in the air. I'll quickly double check. But
Yeah, there is nothing of the sort that you can determine.
I mean, if there are, they're not easily detectable pheromones, which kind of means they don't serve a purpose as pheromones. So I think we're clear.
all right. The commander or lieutenant commander and myself are taking what we can from the bridge and making our way back to the hatch. Get what you can from medical and see if that crew member is there. If not,
Will do.
take what little you can and reconnoiter with the rest of the team.
Understood.
Okay. So, Dr. Lambeth, Commander Romanov, and Chief Vernier, you make your way from the engine room to sickbay. Thankfully, it is on the same it's in the same location. As the three of you arrive and once again struggle to pry open the door, Lambeth, I will say your continued medical readouts, like your medical scanner continues to show that there's no sign of any sort of pheromone activity that you can determine. But I mean, it is not something that I would imagine that you're, of course, playing it cautious. Romanov,
Yeah.
I can imagine that even the notion that this could be the case, given your momentary exposure to the outside ship, is slightly anxiety-inducing.
Yes. She's being very careful.
Mm-hmm. I will say then, your medical scanner probably does pick up, Lambeth, that Commander Romanov's respiration levels are escalating.
Relax, won't you? It's all. There's nothing to be worried about. I mean, like, I'm not gonna make a comment on it, but you're looking a little stressed, so you don't have to be. We're all fine. Like, there's nothing here.
You're detecting that I have elevated rates.
I mean, kinda, yeah. It's not. I mean, I don't need the tricorders to tell you that, but also the tricorder is telling me that.
Okay. I might have been exposed we should those.
Oh right, yeah, because you.
Yes.
I mean, it's probably nothing. Like, just
Yeah,
relax.
probably
It'll go
is.
down. It's probably like psychosomatic or something like that.
Probably, but let's take precautions.
Don't tell me
Alright,
don't tell me I gotta have the phaser ready. Phase pistol.
That's a
I
good one.
mean,
That's a good one. If it starts convincing me that I want to go down to the planet, then okay. Thank you. I will try to overcome.
yeah, alright. Just maybe just yeah. I mean, we don't need a phase or nothing like that. Everything's gonna be fine. Let's just not go down to the planet.
Yeah.
Uh,
And maybe this medical person can shed us some information.
as you say this, Chief Fernier pries open the doors to the medical bay, and you find yourself inside. Very much the same story as everywhere else. No active displays, no signs of bodies, recent activity, anything of the sort. Nothing, that is to say, on any of the biobeds or anything immediately visible.
Well, let's have a closer look around. There's no one hiding in cupboards or anything.
I will say, Doctor, based on the layout, it does occur to you that as I'm going to say Fernier takes it literally and starts opening some of the drawers here, it does occur to you that the imaging chamber is presently closed.
Right, let's stand back just in case, but I'll go and have a look at it.
Okay.
I'll hover over your shoulder to just look at it from an inch view.
It is presently unpowered. Romanov, I'm willing to say that you can have the medical pack, or rather the power pack, if you want to try and repower the system here.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take one of our and
Okay. Control engineering, difficulty 2, please.
We have a ton of momentum too. Just in
Yep. Spend what you wish.
yeah, we've got.
Yeah, you should spend some momentum.
How much do you guys want me to spend?
What's
Spend
the?
3. Why
Did
not?
you say difficulty 2?
Okay. Diff
So
2.
I'd say probably 3 momentum, just
Yeah.
to really guarantee it.
Yep, that'll buy you 2 additional dice.
And this is control and engineering.
Correct.
And I do have electroplasma power system. This is really bad. So,
I think that counts since you are trying to bring the localized grid online. 5 successes. So, yeah, that's going to bring back any momentum you have. That'll give you a full pool into the next time.
Nice.
So you repower the system, and as you do, the shielding to the imaging chamber opens, and a biobed rolls out with a decaying corpse in a Starfleet uniform. And that is where we are going to cut today's session.
Oh shit.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point to cut it.
So for YouTube here, this is where we are going to cut off. Thank you for joining us today for Star Trek Adventures Aegis, or rather for giving us a watch. Feel free to catch our streams live if you can, every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Till then, hope you have a good day. Bye-bye now.